Some cars don't just flop, they drag entire companies into the grave. And few stories prove that better than British Leyland. This was supposed to be the powerhouse of the British car industry, a giant built on iconic brands, big ambition, and the kind of legacy most companies could only dream of. On paper, it had everything it needed to dominate. So how did it all go so wrong? The answer lies in a perfect storm of disastrous decisions. Shocking build quality, missed chances, and a string of cars that were meant to turn the company around, but never could. That's what makes the whole story so painful. Because some of those cars weren't bad at all. In fact, some were genuinely brilliant. The kind of cars that should have restored confidence, revived the brands, and maybe just maybe saved British Leyland from collapse. But they didn't. And one car, more than any other, came heartbreakingly close to changing everything, before the whole empire finally slipped beyond saving. Number 10. Triumph Stag. In the early 1970s, the Triumph Stag arrived as a stylish luxury convertible, designed to compete with cars like the Mercedes SL, but at a much more accessible price. It looked like exactly what British Leyland needed, a confident, elegant grand tourer with a smooth V8 engine and real presence on the road. Expectations were high. This was supposed to be a turning point, a car that could rebuild trust and remind people that British engineering still had something special. On paper, it felt like a guaranteed success. But reality told a different story. The engine quickly developed a reputation for overheating, and reliability became a constant concern. Owners were drawn in by the looks, but many were left dealing with frustrating breakdowns. What could have been a symbol of revival turned into a symbol of missed opportunity. The Stag had everything it needed except the execution. And just when you think that was disappointing, the next car made things even more frustrating. Number 9. Austin Allegro. By the mid-1970s, British Leyland introduced the Austin Allegro as a replacement for the hugely popular Austin 100. This was meant to be the everyday car for Britain, a practical, modern family vehicle that could win back the mass market. The company believed this would be a major success. It had fresh ideas, a new design direction, and the promise of comfort and ease for daily driving. On paper, it ticked all the right boxes. But the public reaction was almost immediate, and not in a good way. The styling felt awkward, the driving experience didn't inspire confidence, and quality issues only made things worse. Instead of becoming a trusted family car, the Allegro became the subject of jokes. It didn't just fail to win people over, it pushed them further away. And if you think that was bad, the next car proves things were only just getting started. Before we go further, if you're enjoying these real stories behind classic cars, the wins, the failures, and everything in between, consider subscribing. Because what's coming next is where things really begin to fall apart. Number 8. Morris Marina. In the early 1970s, the Morris Marina was launched as a simple, no-nonsense family car. It was built quickly, aimed directly at everyday buyers, and designed to compete with reliable rivals like the Ford Cortina. British Leyland saw it as a safe bet. A car that would sell in huge numbers, bring in steady money, and stabilize the company during a difficult time. It wasn't meant to be exciting, just dependable. At first, it seemed to work. The Marina sold well, and on the surface, it looked like a success story. But underneath, the problems were hard to ignore. The design felt outdated almost immediately. The handling wasn't great, and quality issues started to creep in. It wasn't a disaster overnight, but it slowly chipped away at trust. What could have been a solid backbone for British Leyland turned into another example of good enough not being good enough. And as things slipped further, the next car showed just how confused the company had become. Number 7. Austin Maxi. When the Austin Maxi arrived in 1969, it was actually ahead of its time. A spacious hatchback with a flexible interior, front-wheel drive, and a focus on practicality, it had all the ingredients of a modern family car. This was supposed to be innovation at its best. British Leyland aimed to create something smart, useful, and forward-thinking, a car that would stand out for the right reasons. And in many ways, it did. But there was a problem. The early versions suffered from poor build quality and an awkward driving experience. Even something as simple as the gear change felt frustrating to use. First impressions mattered, And they weren't good. Despite its clever design, the Maxi never gained the respect it deserved. It had the right ideas, just not the right execution at the right time. And if missed potential wasn't painful enough, the next car turned things into something far more serious. Number 6. Rover SD1. When the Rover SD1 launched in the mid-1970s, it looked like the future. A sleek fastback design, bold stance, and executive presence made it stand out instantly. It didn't resemble anything else on British roads at the time, and for many, it felt like British Leyland had finally caught up with the best in Europe. This was supposed to be the big statement. A modern executive car that could restore pride and prove the company could still build something truly world-class. And for a brief moment, it actually worked. The SD1 won major awards, gained attention, and people genuinely admired it. But then reality began to creep in. Build quality issues started to show, and they weren't easy to ignore. Inconsistent assembly, electrical faults, and reliability concerns slowly damaged its reputation. What should have been a flagship success became another frustrating what could have been. The SD1 had everything it needed to lead a comeback, except consistency. And just when you think losing a car like that was bad, the next one didn't just miss expectations, it confused everyone. Number 5. Princess, Austin, Morris, Wolseley, 1822 series. In 1975, British Leyland introduced the Princess, a large family car with a futuristic wedge-shaped design that immediately grabbed attention. It looked bold, modern, and completely different from anything the company had made before. This was meant to be a sign of progress. A car that showed British Leyland was ready to move forward with fresh ideas and a new design language. People expected innovation, something exciting and different. But once the initial impression faded, problems became clear. The styling divided opinion, and despite its shape, it didn't even have a hatchback. It felt like a missed opportunity right from the start. On top of that, build quality issues once again held it back. Instead of feeling like a confident step into the future, the Princess came across as uncertain, a car with bold ideas, but no clear direction. And if that wasn't frustrating enough, the next car made people start losing patience completely. Number 4. Austin Ambassador. By the early 1980s, the Austin Ambassador arrived as an updated version of the Princess. It looked more practical this time, finally gaining the hatchback it always should have had, and it was meant to quietly fix the mistakes that had already hurt the brand. British Leyland hoped this would help rebuild trust. A comfortable, sensible family car designed to win back buyers who had been disappointed before. It wasn't about excitement anymore. It was about getting things right. On paper, it made perfect sense. More space, better usability, and a design that finally matched its purpose. But the problem wasn't the car itself. The damage had already been done. People still remembered the Princess, and they weren't ready to give it another chance. Even though the Ambassador was better, it arrived too late to change opinions. What could have been a quiet comeback turned into another missed opportunity, and as confidence continued to slip, the next car showed just how far expectations had fallen. Number 3. Triumph TR7. When the Triumph TR7 launched in the mid-1970s, it was meant to redefine the British sports car. Its sharp wedge shape and bold styling made it stand out immediately, looking nothing like the traditional roadsters people were used to. This was supposed to be a fresh start, a modern, exciting sports car that could attract a new generation and carry the Triumph name into the future. Expectations were huge. Many believed this would become the next great British icon. But reality didn't live up to the image. Early versions suffered from build quality problems and reliability issues, and the performance didn't quite match its aggressive look. Instead of becoming a legend, the TR7 became a disappointment. It tried to move forward, but ended up losing what made it special. And just when it felt like things couldn't get worse, the next car proved British Leyland was running out of time. Number 2. Austin Metro. By 1980, British Leyland was running out of chances, and the Austin Metro was supposed to save everything. A small, modern city car designed to take on rivals like the Ford Fiesta, it felt like a fresh start the company desperately needed. This wasn't just another launch, it was a lifeline. Backed by massive attention and huge expectations, the Metro was aimed at everyday drivers who wanted something affordable, practical, and easy to live with. And at first, it worked. The Metro sold in big numbers. People liked its size, its simplicity, and the fact that it finally felt like British Leyland was catching up. For a moment, it looked like the comeback had begun. But the cracks slowly appeared. It wasn't quite as advanced as its competitors, and over time, it started to feel behind again. The early success couldn't carry it far enough, and it never fully changed how people saw the company. The Metro came closer than most, but it still couldn't save British Leyland, and if that was the near miss, the next car was the last real chance. Number 1. Rover 800 Series. By the mid-1980s, the Rover 800 series arrived with more pressure than any car before it. This wasn't just another model, it was British Leyland's final shot at rebuilding its reputation at the top level. Developed with a more modern approach and a focus on quality, it was meant to compete with the best executive cars in the world. Smooth, refined, and far more polished than what came before, it finally felt like the company had learned from its mistakes. And for once, it actually delivered. The Rover 800 was respected. It looked right, felt right, and proved that British Leyland, now changing into something new, could still build a serious car. For a moment, it brought back a sense of pride. But it came too late. By the time the 800 arrived, the damage was already done. The reputation had already slipped, the trust had already faded, and the company as people knew it was already disappearing. This was the car that could have saved everything if it had come sooner. Instead, it became the final reminder of what British Leyland was capable of right before it all came to an end. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.